What's up? How are you guys doing? Look, I understand some of you do not enjoy these sorts of discussions, name the trait namely, and that's fine. I get it. You don't have to listen to what I have to say. But the reason why I engage the mentally ill, let's just keep it real, vegans. I'm not saying all vegans are mentally ill, but if you think everybody should be vegan, you most likely are. At the very least, you're just dead wrong. But the reason why I'm willing to talk to some of these mentally ill vegans, like, ask yourself, look, maybe he's not mentally ill, maybe he's just evil. And if you think I'm painting a false dichotomy, what else can he be? But the reason why I will engage these people is because they have some influence. And they're definitely convincing young kids, usually, to go vegan or continue being vegan. They are encouraging these young people to ruin their health. They're supporting big pharma, big agro, which as of not that long ago are one and the same. Get you sick on the one end and then try to help you out on the back end, quote unquote, help you out. They get you sick and then they sell you cures. And veganism is a perfect embodying, gelling, morphing of both, right? You can't even be vegan without popping pills, right? You can't even be vegan, at least not as part of a larger vegan population, without pesticides and fertilizers and all these big agro, big pharma, really, chemicals. And I'm not saying we could live an existence completely devoid of those things, not the way things are right now, but they're really pushing for a total control grid full of sick, illogical, frail people. Physically frail people, mentally frail people. And a lot of you don't see it this way, and I hope I'm wrong. But there's been, especially lately, a very strong push to tax meat, restrict your rights to keep livestock, so on and so forth, taking away your right to not only self-determination, but food sovereignty. It's your birthright, your God-given right, if that's what you believe. These people are anti-human. They don't want to give animals human rights. They want to give human beings animal rights. They want to take away human rights, which really is the agenda. They're part of that agenda. They're just fighting on a different front. And me, as a farmer, somebody who keeps animals, even though this sort of thing is not likely to reach me in my lifetime, this is something I believe in. This is something I enjoy. I had all kinds of jobs in my life, and the only one that I truly enjoyed was when I was on the bicycle, self-employed. But I love what I do right now, and these people want to take that away from me. They want to take that away from other people. And so long as I live, I ain't having it. That's why I talk to these people, because they're dead wrong. because they're illogical. They don't make any sense. And I don't want to live in a world full of illogical people, because you can be extremely intelligent, as we see in the case of Ask Yourself, yet completely ludicrous and illogical. So, being smart and psychopathic, you could get into positions of power. You could influence legislature. You can do a lot of damage to unsuspecting people who just say, "Oh, why do you care to talk to these people? It doesn't matter," right? That's fine. I hope you're right. But I believe I am. So that's why I do this. I don't want to live in a world full of illogical people. I already do. But at the very least, I'm hoping that the people in positions of power, at the very least, some of them are logical. So there will come one day, it will happen, where some douchebag on Capitol Hill or wherever your commands come from is going to be debating, name the trait. And unless there are logical people across the room from that person who are familiar with how to defeat this retarded proposition, name the trait or the result thereof could become the law. It could become part of your reality. Why do you think they push so hard for this idiotic nonsense? There is absolutely no way name the trait works in any way, shape, or form. But a lot of people don't know that. A lot of people are ill-equipped to deal with this sort of thing, and they just don't know how to reject it. So I'm perfectly willing to talk to, I would even talk to Isaac again, except on a neutral channel with a neutral moderator, with some clearly defined rules going into the debate that are presented to the audience at the beginning of the debate as well, so that we all know what's happening. That's why he wants to obscure so many different variables, so that people don't know what's happening. So he from the very beginning of his debates, he tries to manipulate people emotionally. He wants to withhold information from you and just give you his side of the story. Hammer you into a corner, right? That's what he says his strategy is. Take things off the table, right? Like human rights. Take them off the table. So, yeah, I'd be totally willing to talk to the guy again, but in a different setting, of course. And he stands no chance. He doesn't stand a chance. There are so many ways to defeat the nonsense. And the more obscure, the more absurd, the more abstract he makes his argument, well, you just kind of have to step into that realm. You could reject it. You could completely reject it on the basis of, well, pragmatism, because that's not the world we live in. Or you could go into that realm and make your arguments just as absurd as his. So these hypotheticals, I don't believe they're valid. Some hypotheticals are valid, of course, but they have to be practical in order to be valid, right? I mean, you're looking to make changes in the real world. What the fuck does some kind of imaginary world that will likely never come into existence have to do with what's happening in the here and the now? Nothing. How does that better my life? How does that better anybody's life? To talk about transferring consciousness as if that were even possible, which he doesn't believe it is, from this being to that being, and then calling it what it used to be, even though you completely changed it. It's just, oh my God, you know? But people who don't understand logic and they're emotionally driven, they'll buy that stuff. That's why he starts his debates with, graphic imagery. That's why when he makes his videos, he's got the graphic imagery behind them. He enjoys this type of stuff. Like, look, I slaughter animals, right? And every time I do, a little piece of me dies. Or something happens. My mood changes, and it takes me, depending on how much I like the animal, it takes me anywhere between half an hour to sometimes a couple days to recover. So when someone is telling me, stabbing an animal for a hamburger and virtue signaling, like, yeah, it affects me emotionally, but you guys gotta be stronger than that. And a lot of you are. I'm not saying callous, but logical. So let's talk a little bit about these absurd hypotheticals. Once again, if you don't believe consciousness can be separated from the body within your own worldview, and we don't have proof either way, not that I know of, well, then you can't use that argument. You just refute it yourself, right? But even if you do, if in my ethical framework, the human is all of those things, you start ripping that human apart, taking away the human's consciousness, obviously, that's no longer human in my worldview. And if you're a subjective moralist or moral subjectivist, don't put your values, don't try to inject your values into my ethical system. But that's exactly what vegans want to do, right? They believe that morals are subjective just because they feel a certain way after watching some slaughterhouse porn. They think that actions based on that are moral and ethical, right? They're moral subjectivists. And if that's who you are, then what the hell are you doing trying to tell me what I feel, right? How I should be acting based on my feelings. This whole idea of some kind of world with aliens in it, all you have to say is that, yes, I'm okay with, I don't even feel like using the words he uses, but killing an infinite number of sentient beings, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, that's not my trait. That's not the trait I named. I named human. I didn't say sentient aliens. I didn't say infinite whatever. I didn't say any of that. You did. That's not part of my ethical system. So under the rules of the debate, I win. And the way you find out what the rules are without him telling you what they are is, well, you just look at what he considers a win, right? And you apply those same rules to him. We know what the rules are if you've listened to his debates. You know what the rules are. You can also take this hypothetical and completely reject it and say my ethical system does not respect these hypotheticals. I respect a hypothetical that's real in this world, something that didn't or doesn't necessarily have to happen, but it's very much possible. I'll accept that kind of hypothetical. That's how I make my ethical decisions. I don't give a shit how you make your ethical decisions. It's not pragmatic. It doesn't fit within the rules that guide the world that we both live in, where you're trying to enact change. And half the hypotheticals you propose, they don't even make any sense. They're illogical, so they have no place in a logical debate, right? Easy. I mean, why can't I propose a hypothetical to combat his worldview? Something along the lines of, well, what if one day humans become carnivores, right? To the kind of degree where eating a single plant kills them or makes them very sick, or not eating almost exclusively meat makes them sterile, they die, whatever. It destroys us completely. Don't get me wrong, we're already carnivores because we need to eat. Maybe not every single one of us, but a lot of us are genetically. And this is on record, proven. So forget about it. But, what if one day we become completely carnivorous where you can't even, where veganism means death, right? Then what? We still have to be vegan? If you say yes, then you're okay with infinitely hollow, hoaxing, sentient beings, right? Like, this is just ridiculous. And if it's okay within your own ethical system to make decisions based on a world that doesn't exist but could potentially come into existence later on in the future. I mean, I've heard an argument that, if we had a time machine and we could go 1,000,000 years into the future when human beings evolve into something that's genetically different from what they are today, would you be okay with murdering all of them? I mean, absurd, right? No? I'm sitting there listening to this debate, thinking to myself, is the other guy vegan yet? Okay. I'm gonna go take a piss, but I don't wanna go because, let me just grab my popcorn and pay close attention because any minute now, he's gonna be eating Brussels sprouts and kale and nothing else. But the way you could combat that argument, if you accept it, you shouldn't, but if you accept it, well, I mean, we don't even have to go into this hypothetical, wildly imaginative sort of kind of realm. We could just look into your past, dear vegan. You used to eat meat. So within your own ethical framework, you could never be ethical, right? You're asking me if I'm going to commit this quote-unquote unethical crime into the future when you already in your own past, within your own ethical framework, you've sinned. You already, right? You've eaten meat before. You were born of creatures that ate meat. Would you be okay going into the past and taking away their right to eat meat? Meaning they would die and you would never be born. Would you be okay with that? Of course he wouldn't. This is how absurd these arguments are, and how easy it is to defeat them. So easy. I'm not making this video any longer. I just wanted to say that the vegan agenda is a dangerous one. It's very much related to ideologically and factually. If you do some digging, go check out Primal Edge Health. People want to say, tinfoil hat wearer, conspiracy theorist. And he gives you articles and he cites books and authors that he just repeats what they said. But some of you guys are just in denial, saying like, oh, this isn't real. Go see if the book exists. Go read the book. Go dig up this article. Maybe he just printed it, right? He printed this whole magazine, Cosmopolitan, on his house printer. Yeah, okay. You know what I mean? Oh yeah, and 5G is just so healthy for you, by the way. Low cheetah. So good for you. It'll make your dick bigger. Enjoy. With fucking bulbous sores. Anyway. I'm passionate about this because the kind of life that I live is allegedly unethical, right? Even though I feed people. My wife and I, we feed people. First and foremost, ourselves, of course. But as a byproduct of that, other people get to eat delicious, organic, nutritionally dense, wonderful foods. I keep telling you guys about these vegans, ex-vegans that I know in personal life. In my life, I know these people. This past Saturday, this guy that was fruitarian for a while, then vegan, whatever, is very much invested in the ideology was. And we even had a little spat on Facebook one time, you know, when he was basically asking, how do you eat a rabbit with your teeth, right? One of those pseudoscientific vegan arguments. I asked him the same about a coconut. How do you eat a coconut, right? This is how absurd these arguments are, by the way. And he disappeared, obviously. And he's judged us in the past for doing what we do, and it's just been rude before, all that other kind of stuff, right? The typical vegan bull crap. This past Saturday, he comes by my wife's table at the farmer's market and asks to buy some meat. Thanks for listening, guys.